Hello everybody and welcome to our ethics study session recap. Okay, so this is not live. We're not going to be going through the full session, but this is just a quick recap on the strategies that we're going to implement, and we're actually going to try out some questions. Now, my name is Nicholas Tang. I am the Thompson's Bay Shop coordinator here at World Financial Group with the Steve Holbrook Bay Shop hierarchy, or hierarchy, not Bay Shop. But essentially, if you'd like to contact me, feel free to. You can see my emails here, right, with any questions regarding to how these sessions go, strategies, or questions when you're doing the exams yourself. Now, a little bit of the intentions while going through these sessions, we got to keep in mind that we are not going to be focused on studying the content. Okay, I repeat, we're not going to be focused on the studying. What we're actually going to be focused on is mainly towards utilizing our resources, and this case is our mock exams as well as our textbooks, and we're going to implement strategies, get used to it, and familiarize ourselves with it so that we can quickly get through these exams and get it completed. The reason being is because most of the content that we're going to actually learn is through appointments and going out into the field. That's why we want to just get this going, complete it, and continue on with our business. Right now, a little bit about the intentions with the exams specifically. Right, we want to make sure that we are focused on getting a pass, and in this field, passing is at 60%. And majority of our questions have, or majority of the modules have 30 questions, so we want to focus on getting 18 questions correct. Now, with that being said, right, each exam is 75 minutes. So instead of treating it as a 30 question exam in that 75-minute period, treat it as an 18 question exam in that 75-minute period, right? And the reason we do that is so that we don't have to be too worried or stressed about the time that there is, and then we can have more focused quality search on those few questions. Now, we also want to make sure that we do skip any math questions or long questions, because they may be either more difficult or just in general take up more of our time. And like we said earlier, right, we want to make sure that we provide enough time for ourselves so that we don't stress and we have a clear mind while going through these. Now, when I say that we focus on those 18 questions, that means if you feel confident that maybe even 15 or 18 of them are correct, you could skip the rest by just guessing a random answer, and you got a high chance of passing. Okay, so that's the strategy towards this exam. Now, when we're going through each question though, the strategy for the questions, this is how I like to go about it. It's a 5-step strategy, and the first thing I do is identify the real question. And then if I'm not familiar, I don't really understand that question, then number 2, which is optional, is I would read more if necessary. But if not, then I check number 3, which is to ignore any answers that either look wrong or seem with common sense doesn't fit in, or I've seen it previously through experience. Those answers we put to the side so that we don't have to worry too much of what's going on. And then I would go about step number 4, which is to identify any keywords, which are words that are descriptive and will help us guide towards our answer, right? It could be descriptive or something that we don't really know about, right? And we can search that up and see what it is talking about, right? And then after we get those keywords, we go ahead into number 5, which is searching up those words in the textbook until it is found. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just pull up the exam and the textbook and show you how I would typically go about it. Right, as you can see, I do split screen here. I got a module on one side. In this case, it's the ethics, right? And then I also got the same corresponding textbook on the other side, right? And to pull up this bar, which is to search up things, right? So I can search up all the words in the textbook. I click Command F for Mac computers or Control F for window computers, and it brings up this bar as you can see right here. And then I can just search up anything like with the word ethics. It tells me how many of those words have been found in the textbook. It also highlights it yellow on the side, and then it tells me which position, which word I have encountered. This one right here, right? So this is the 3rd ethics in the textbook. This is the 4th, 5th, and so on and so forth, right? So you do notice that this particular word ethics has over 200 searches. So with that being said, I would not consider that a keyword because it's not specific enough, and it's just too many words that I could just be clicking through, and that would just take too much time and not help me with anything. So what we're going to do now is apply that strategy into this question over here, and we'll go from there. Right, now you can see that this one's clearly a longer question. I can always go through the different ones, right? You'll see that's a long one. This one's a little bit shorter, right? So this is what I would identify as a long one. And then we can always just skip that for now. Check out the next one. This one's not too bad. And I can always just breeze through them if I wanted to, right? Like this one's pretty short at 5. I will go back to the other ones, but let's just do this one and see what's going on, right? So I first read the question. As you can see, this last sentence of each question is actually the real question. For instance, see, this is the last question or last sentence of this whole statement, and that's the question. Which of the following is not a condition of reinstatement of John's policy? So it's the question. Going back here, which of the following will pass through her estate? Okay, so this is also the question, and this one's obviously going to be an explanation of what's going on. So let's just quickly dive into number 5, right, and get this one going. So again, step number 1, or read the question. Okay, which of the following will pass through her estate? Okay, or estate. So I understand it's talking about what of one of these things will go through her estate. Okay, great. Now, number 2, right, do I need to know any more information? As of right now, I will say no. It's a very quick read, but I can just skip through and go to the answers. And the next step, which is number 3, to see if any of these are clearly wrong. Now, assuming that we are all new here and we don't actually know much, I'm just going to skip that step and say that maybe everything is a potential and I'm not sure if one is right or wrong, sort of thing. So we're going to skip that and go ahead to step number 4, which is to identify the keywords, right? So if I look through the question itself first, is how I normally go about it. I see if there's anything that could be a word that's descriptive, right? Maybe even will pass through, or estate could potentially be a word. So I go ahead and search it on the textbook. Pass through. I spelled that wrong. Pass through. There's nothing here. And her estate. Okay, estate has 128 words, so this one is something that I would ignore and go to the next part, which would be looking through those keywords in these answers. So first I'll look through A, and I do see there's RRSP. If I'm unfamiliar with that, I can definitely search that up. Right, there's only 19 searches, as you can see here, and that's definitely I could definitely click onto it and see what's going on. But if not, let's continue. On which she has not named a beneficiary. Beneficiary could also be a word if, again, we are unfamiliar with it, but it's also descriptive of what's going on. And if I just take a quick overlook, I see beneficiary here, here. So all 3 of those have beneficiary, so it seems pretty important. Maybe potentially that is a word that one of those could be the answer, right? Because there's a lot of beneficiary. But do keep in mind that searching that word up is not very effective because there's 174 of those searches. So instead, I would definitely start off with RRSP, and I click onto the first one. And typically what I do is I keep searching until I get kicked out of the table of contents. So the table of contents is anything like, obviously it tells you the section, the chapter, and the page numbers. Once I get out of there, then I can go back to the previous one I found and click onto it. See, so this textbook is pretty neat because when you click onto it, it brings us directly there. Now, going back first, the reason I continue searching before I click onto it is maybe because there is RRSP found somewhere else in the table of contents, but maybe the section is slightly different and it's more directive towards what the question is asking. But in this case, there's only one, so we can go ahead and click there. And then from there, I scroll to the section and read, right? Is there anything that talks about passing through her estate? Now, the retirement savings plan, RRSP, has flexibility and unrestricted withdrawal at any time, subject to withholding tax, which may require increases in the amount withdrawn. Recontribution is not permitted. So this doesn't say anything about passing on to the estate. So what I will do is actually consider and see if there's anything else that talks about it. If not, then I'll go to the next answer. So RRSP on which she has not named a beneficiary. Okay, so first things actually first. I will check out what beneficiary is. Okay, and I see there's a heading here, and again I click again. Oh, so you notice there's multiple things, right? If I keep clicking, I see there's a little bit different wording of those, and boom, I'm out. I can go back here. And what I want to do is, because it's a general topic, it doesn't really specify what kind of beneficiary. I would just click onto beneficiary and do a quick read up. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it is basically the person to whom or for whose benefit insurance money is payable to. So if this person passed away, that money will be paid to them. Okay. So if I keep reading, it also talks a little bit more, but I'm not going to read through it all because I want to make sure I can find the answer through here, right? So I can potentially go to the next line, life insurance policy. Okay, I see there's 22 searches, but let's see if it talks about maybe a beneficiary or passing through estate. Okay, so I go through the first one, in their name, minors, this talking about minors, so it doesn't really, let's see, okay, we can quickly read it. Without the capacity to contract a life or accident and sickness insurance policy, the insurable interest in their children and may apply for life insurance under their name. So it doesn't really say anything. Here is nothing. It's simply a contract for the insurer and policyholder. This kind of describes what that life insurance policy is. Okay, no. This one's just an example. Termination, doesn't really talk about that. Within the 2 years, termination, nope. Booklets. So you see what I'm reading? I'm reading the title, right? Because maybe it relates. Now, if I read this, let's see if it talks about anything about an estate. Insurance policy may set up time. Claim may be made. Provincial claim after. No, I'm just taking a quick breeze and seeing if there's anything that talks about an estate. It doesn't really seem like it. Right, so I just keep going. Lump sum. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to stop here, 15, and do another word. Okay, so if I look through here, it doesn't seem like I'm getting anywhere. Definitely the idea of beneficiary makes sense. Pass through her estate. I really would love to see pass through the word. But again, that's not it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually go back to the top and read. Rita is getting her properties and asset in order and making sure her will is up to date. So it is related to a will. So let's do this actually. I searched up estate and I noticed it did say will. If I keep going, if I put spaces here, it will only give me estate. Or let's get rid of this. Okay, boom. Okay, so estates. Anything else? Nope. I just click here and see if it talks about anything else. Okay, so I read the term successive law, the body of the provincial law that deals with deceased persons, estates, and the rule governing party assets as a result of the death. The collection of the property and property rights that the deceased owned is referred to as the estate. Okay, so this is basically any of the property or collection of the property rights that a deceased person has, and that's called their estate. Okay, now let's see if it talks about anything related to any of these. Right, okay, I notice, boom, I just scroll down, I take a brief look and I see it does talk about that RRSP TFSA as well, and I noticed that that was in A and C. So what I will do is maybe just read through around here and see what it's talking about. Now, registered plans with a named beneficiary, including RRSPs, RIFs, and TFSAs, pass directly to the named beneficiary. Interesting, so this passes directly through to the named beneficiary. So if you have a named beneficiary, then it goes there. So let's see this one, TFSA, which names her husband as the beneficiary. So in this case, right, that means it passes directly to the beneficiary and not through the estate. So C is incorrect. And I'm just going to look at A, and I'm pretty sure A is correct. I'm just going to hold that for there. But I do notice, right, so it says there's no named beneficiary for that RRSP. So it doesn't pass directly to the beneficiary, but let's see what happens. Let's see if it says anything else. Life insurance payable to a named beneficiary also passes outside the will to the named beneficiary. Okay, so you do see B is talking about that life insurance. It has a named beneficiary. In this case, it says it will also pass through directly to the beneficiary. So B is out of there. B and C seems very likely A is, but let's see if maybe D is also out of there. Joint tenancy. Does it talk about joint tenancies? In contrast, life insurance payable to the estate of the policyholder is bold under the will. Surviving spouses under this obtain the rights of the priority over the designated this. Okay, couples with will making. Okay, does it say? No. Okay, it doesn't really say specifically, but based on intuition, I'm pretty sure some of you that are watching this definitely already know what the answer is, given that you already know what the estate is and RSPs or beneficiaries. So I'm pretty confident that A is the correct answer. D doesn't really say anything. If we really wanted to check, we can always say search up joint tenancy. But given that these three answers were found within the same area and we figured out that B and C are not related, not correct because of this section, I can tell that A is going to be correct. So that's how I would go about doing this particular question. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is hop into another question that is potentially considered more of a difficult one. I haven't actually looked at this one yet, but it definitely seems a bit longer, so it's worth checking out and potentially considered one of those more difficult questions that you might encounter. But nevertheless, let's get to it, right? So first step, read the question. What should Penny do? Now in this case, it doesn't really describe anything, so I go into step 2 and read a bit more about what's going on. I could always read one sentence back and continue like that, or I could just read the whole thing, which I'm actually going to do right now. So Gail is a life insurance agent, so this guy's the agent, who asked her assistant, Penny, to call up prospective clients. Gail, I'm just going to call the insurance agent, instructs the assistant to call members of the agent's country club and provide and provides the assistant with the club's membership list. Now, the agent has registered and subscribed to the National Do Not Call list, so the DNCL. Now, what should the assistant do? Okay, that makes more sense, right? So now we know that the agent is giving a list for the assistant to call up prospective clients. Now, what is the assistant supposed to do with this in place too, right? So I'm going to read the answers. Again, we're going to assume everything's good. So we're just going to go hop right into keywords and then search for the answer, right? Now, first things first that stands out is the National Do Not Call list. National Do Not Call list. So I definitely would search that up. And as you can see, it brings me right up to here, right? It also has the abbreviation of the DNCL. But let's take a little bit of a read of what's going on with the answers to see if anything, to kind of just get an understanding of what those answers are, right? So the assistant can call anyone in the club's membership list at home because they are connected to Gale through the club. Interesting. Okay, the assistant should only call businesses to schedule meetings with Gale to discuss business and group insurance. Interesting. The assistant should email anyone who cannot be reached by phone, offering one-on-one meeting with Gale to discuss their insurance needs. Emails are exempt from the DNCL. Interesting. And then Penny can solicit insurance from anyone listed on the club memberships list because Gale has subscribed to the DNCL. Okay, interesting. So it talks about Gale giving calls, DNCL. So let's see what's up. What is the DNCL, which is the National Do Not Call list? So I just take a quick breeze, right? Whereby clients may register their phone numbers and request that telemarketers do not call them. Calls to businesses are not prohibited. So that means you can call those businesses. I kind of highlight this because I did see something in the answers that talked about a business. And I see it's at B as well, right? So calling businesses only. Interesting. Okay, so these rules apply to life insurance agents. I do notice that this guy was called a life insurance agent. The girl, Gale, who can call clients and prospective clients. Oh, there's a word here, prospective clients. So they're calling prospective clients. So it seems like a lot of words here fit with the statement and the answers. So I definitely think I am in the right spot. So now what I want to do is make sure that what I saw previously actually lines up, right? With B was potentially one. So the assistant should only call businesses to schedule meetings with Gale to discuss business and insurance groups. So it seems something like that. It seems like it makes the most sense, so we'll keep that on hold. Now let's see about here. Call anyone in the club's membership list at home because they are connected to Gale through the club. So interesting. Does it say anything about being at home and you can call them? Agents make their own telemarketing calls, must register and subscribe to this. If agents hire telemarketers, interesting, so that's like the assistant to call on their behalf, then the telemarketers must comply with this. So they must comply with this, which also states that anybody who is registered have nobody call them, essentially. So if we look at A, it just says to call anyone, but we don't know which people are on the DNCL, so A seems to be incorrect because it just says to call anyone, not only those that are not registered. Okay, so we know A is incorrect, B is a potential. Let's see what about C. C talks about emailing anyone. Interesting. It talks about emails, but this DNCL talks about calling. So maybe we put that on the side because it doesn't say anything about emails. Now let's see what about this one. Solicit insurance to anyone listed on the club insurance list or the club membership list because this person is subscribed to the DNCL. So that is totally off in a tangent. It doesn't talk about the proper description of what the DNCL is. So I would kick off D as well. Now it's between C or B. So what I want to do is, well, it feels more confident with B because it actually says that you can call the businesses. But let's see what it means by email. So what I'm going to do is actually search up the word email to see if anything pops up. Making it malicious and derogatory. Interesting. So this is definition. Email only brought me one thing. That's right here. So it doesn't really seem to talk about emails in this particular textbook. And because of that, there's a lack of evidence to suggest that this is correct. So what I would say is put my confidence on likelihood on B being the correct answer. So that is how we go about these questions. We just went through 2 of them today. We can definitely go through more, but definitely try it out yourselves with this kind of format with the mock exam and the textbook, and then go from there. And again, if you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me. I will bring this back up. If you want to contact me, let's see. Boom, right here. You got my contact information right here as well. But that's it for this video. Hope you get some gold nuggets out of it, and definitely start implementing it yourself. Have a wonderful day. Cheers.